Why don't we begin, Michelle, by you telling us a bit about your background and the Forum Board?
Well, thanks, Doug. Thanks for that question. I joined the Association Forum as President and CEO in September 2014. Prior to Association Forum, I was a Managing Director at the American Society for Quality located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. ASQ is a large global association with an operating revenue of about $45 million and over 74,000 members. There, my focus was on membership, chapter relations, innovation, new business development, strategy, and social responsibility. Really, I was brought there to look at the future of the quality profession and identify some strategies to assist the organization. Prior to ASQ, I was the Vice President of Strategic and Future-Focused Research at ASAE in Washington, D.C., and as you can tell, I have an extensive background in association management. I really could not think of any profession better suited for me. I'm really attracted to the mission, the strategy, and also the change that's really occurring here in associations nowadays. I fundamentally believe in the premise of what associations represent to a democratic society, a common group of passionate individuals band together for a collective purpose. So that's a little about my background and why I'm so passionate about associations. As for the Association Forum Board, our board is comprised of 13 members, 10 association professionals, and 3 supplier partners. And our board members are elected to 3-year terms.
Now, we hear a lot of talk these days about the value of diversity, and particularly diverse boards in terms of decision-making in a really challenging world. What kind of process do you go through at the Forum when you fill vacancies to ensure diversity on the board? What kinds of things do you do to promote diversity?
Yeah, well, diversity is very core to who we are and what we do at Association Forum. One of our core values is basically welcoming environment. We value and appreciate differences, and we adopted the whole welcoming environment concept in September 2014. And basically, it's the creation of a sense of belonging and connectedness that engages individuals in an authentic way, in an authentic manner that values their uniqueness, respect, and support through opportunities, interactions is what, with us at Association Forum, is what we want to embody. We believe that the environment we create communicates our beliefs about the people that we serve. So this fundamental philosophy about a welcoming environment is something that we carry through into our nomination process. Our nominating committee uses its best efforts to select candidates for board service that embody that philosophy. And it also looks for some of the traditional representation of, gender, generational, ethnicity. It's important that we look at membership category, geography. Our membership is geographically diverse here in Chicago. We have a large representation in the suburbs, so that's very important that we bring that voice to the board, and we look at that as a form of diversity and welcoming environment. Association type is very important to us. Trade, individual membership. Supplier partners bring a strong voice and diversity to our board. Their ideology, their thought process in some cases can be a little more entrepreneurial, and they bring effective practices from other organizations that they work with. And so we appreciate that. We appreciate some of their boldness and how they push us to think beyond our current state. Of course, experience is very important as well. Some of the individual attributes that are important to us, one of our highest values here in the Chicago community is that we have a very connected association membership community. Our community is very engaged. And so we look for board members, leaders that have a very personable they're very personable and easy to approach, very accessible to our members. We like to, attract board members that, have the ability to think strategically about formed. Associations are operating in very different times, so we have to think very uniquely, and we need to be pushed as it relates to, our relevancy and the value that we deliver our members, and we look to our leaders to provide that and board members to support that. Obviously working with the CEO is important, right? So that's a very important dynamic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for us as well. Of course, having an appreciation and understanding and a strong commitment to diversity is a key value, as well as some of the visionary, a strategic thinker, someone that can just represent us out in our membership, in the profession. And so those are some of the things that we look for. And, obviously being a strong, good listener, we believe in voice of the member. We believe in listening to our members and using that input to improve the organization and advance our strategy so that we can stay relevant to our community here.
Now, at the current time, do you have any particular diversification targets you're pursuing for the board beyond what you've talked about?
Well, we were fortunate to have a diverse board. We are aware that generational diversity is something we need to be thinking about. As the population ages and retirements start to increase, we just need to be representative of the next generation. But we also are aware that by 2050, the population age 65 and over is projected to be about 83.7 million, I believe. And so we know that, I'm sorry?
Well, I just said that's amazing.
Yeah. And so when we look at that, we know that the life expectancy will be longer because of access to better health care. So when we look at generational differences, we should be thinking about generational synergy, balancing and leveraging the unique attributes of the generations. And so I think that will be something that we will need to think about. It's great to have fresh insights and innovative thinking on the board, and bringing that younger generational view is very important to us, and a balance with the wisdom and the knowledge is very important. So strategically, I think both will be very important to us as we move forward. And, as I shared earlier about welcoming environment, right, is about connectedness, is about valuing differences. And so this is something for us to be thinking about in the future.
Have you noticed with younger potential board members and people who join the board, any difference in expectations from the past to, do you think that younger board members are coming with a different view of board service?
I can't say that I've noticed a major difference. I would say that younger board members have I can't say that I've seen a difference, a key difference yet, right? That might be something that we need to monitor and look for in the future. I would, anecdotally, I would assume that they would have a high tolerance for delivery and execution of strategies. And so whereas traditionally sometimes there is a need to ponder decisions and things for a period of time, I don't know if the expectations, just a shorter cycle around the decision making might be what they would want. But
interesting.
Yeah.
Sort of in a really increasingly busy world,
right?
They might bring a more rat-a-tat-tat kind of approach to
they might.
making decisions.
And I'm sure that is being researched or has been researched, but it's just maybe that different ideology or that different expectation is just something to monitor and consider on boards, just that shorter cycle time around decision making and potentially around advancement.
Are all of your board meetings in person, or do you hold any of your meetings as teleconferences?
We have 3 board meetings a year. one is a retreat, and they're all in person. We will convene teleconferences as needed. Yeah.
Okay. As I've traveled around the country, I have noticed greater receptivity to different meeting formats, and that the virtual meeting is definitely becoming more popular in a very busy world. So I think we might see some of that in the world of governance going forward.
Yeah, I would be surprised, definitely.
Now, when you assemble your board, you've recruited the people you need. You've got the human resource question at the board level answered. How do you make sure that board members hit the ground running, have the knowledge and the skills they need to govern at a really high level? What kinds of things do you do to bring them up to speed in governing?
That's a great question. Well, we have, obviously, a board orientation with the new board members, and it's open to existing board members, if you will. So the orientation, just providing background on the business operations and strategic direction of Association Forum is key. So the onboarding process is very important to us. And as I mentioned, we have 3 meetings a year, one of which is a retreat. And at that time, we really put the board in a strategic mind frame, because that's where we need for it to focus on strategic direction for the next year. And at that retreat, the board identifies strategic priorities based on a variety of inputs. We survey our members to get, as I mentioned, voice of the customer. We're always listening to what they're saying, and we use that research to make informed decisions, and we keep that research in front of the board members. And as they review it prior to the retreat and pull out some of the key insights that they have identified.
Now, is this a full-day meeting, Michelle?
It is.
It's
a full-day meeting. It's a full-day meeting. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a full-day meeting, and it's really focused on strategy. It's focused on identifying strategic priorities, as I mentioned, for the following year, and what we consider strategic priorities to be basically those things that are, those priorities that are beyond business as usual. You know, we'll recruit new members, retain members, business development. We know we need to do those things to operate the business, but above and beyond, what are we going to focus on? And so that's how we keep the board in a strategic mindset and help them to understand their responsibility as it relates to governance and the association setting strategic direction, working with the CEO. And
I'm sorry.
No, please, go ahead.
Let me ask a closing question, Michelle, and I really appreciate your time. In recruiting board members during your tenure as CEO at the Forum, have you encountered any particular challenges that you've had to overcome, you and your board colleagues, in building the composition of the board?
I can't say that we have. Not during my tenure here the past 2 years. We have a very, as I mentioned, engaged membership that is willing to serve, and that's a really good problem to have, right?
It is.
So we're very fortunate to have an engaged membership that really cares about Association Forum, its best interest, and strategic direction. So I really can't say that I've encountered major issues. But I would like, if you don't mind, to go back to the question that you asked earlier about board and making sure the board is governing or, have a governing knowledge, has the governing knowledge and skills. Something that we recently implemented, my current chair, it was a great idea that he had, is to add a new discussion item to our board agenda. and it's called Generative Discussion. So it's basically a strategic question that helps the board stay in a strategy mindset throughout the entire meeting. And so an example of that, Doug, would be the most recent question asked during our last board meeting was, basically it focused on the changing landscape of associations and how prepared is Association Forum. And what was important about that question is that it was a discussion that took place at the board meeting prior to the retreat. So the board has been thinking in this strategy mindset and brought that to the retreat. How is the landscape changing? How prepared are we? So positioning the board to really think about our future, to think about, just new models is very important because we, clearly know that we need to always evolve as an organization. And that's what we look to our board to provide direction around as well.
So the word you used was generative?
Yeah, generative.
Great word.
Yeah, I can't claim it, but I'll say my chair, Dave Ferguson.
Well, you by all means take credit for it. Great idea. So raising the board sights every meeting is a key goal.
Yes.
Well, Michelle, I really appreciate your time. Folks, I've been talking with Michelle Mason, President and CEO of the Association Forum of Chicagoland, about board diversity. Thanks so much, Michelle, for joining us today.
Thank you, Dan.
And have a great afternoon.
You have a great afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity.